Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly AgWeather update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Just want to bring you up to speed on where this current hurricane season sits. We've had 9 named systems, the most recent of which were, of course, Ian and Hermine. Hermine was much closer to Africa and not really a discussion point, but Ian, of course, was the system that rolled through this past weekend and delivered a tremendous amount of rain to North Carolina. Now, before I kind of just dig into that a little bit, just give you a quick recap, I do want to show you that so far this season, we're still pretty far behind normal on the accumulation of cyclone energy. So this is basically a metric we use to kind of gauge the total energy in all of our tropical systems. And because of the very late start to this season, look at this. This is July through August into September. Because of the very late start to the season, we're just really far behind. But the atmosphere has been attempting to kind of play catch up, and we're going to take a look at the latest hurricane forecast in just a few moments. But we're still dealing with the remnants of Ian. So the main circulation is just off the coast here, but the steering currents around this are such that we still have quite a bit of a pull in the upper levels of the atmosphere, pushing this system's cloud cover and rainfall back over parts of North Carolina, but really Virginia, getting into parts of the mid-Atlantic. So from Maryland to Delaware to New Jersey, even parts of Pennsylvania are going to be seeing quite a bit of this heavy rainfall continuing here. Now, when we just look back over the last 7 days, this map just kind of shows us the forecast challenges with Hurricane Ian. Specifically, when it was coming across Cuba, most of the forecast ensembles took it somewhere here into Florida, and then we're going to dump a lot of rain into parts of Georgia, Tennessee, getting into Kentucky, and then bring the rain over to us in North Carolina. But then we saw the strength of this front, and the forecast models really resolved it better, and each new forecast just kept taking it farther and farther to the east and farther to the south before it eventually took its final track, which was down here just near Sarasota, cut across Florida, came into South Carolina, and then turned through parts of North Carolina. And the map I've been drawing on here shows you the last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. Now, I'm going to zoom in a few moments and show you North Carolina, but before I do that, I just want to make those corn and soybean farmers that are here in the Carolinas, plus our cotton growers, understand that much of the central part of the United States, from the southern plains through much of the Midwest, over to the Tennessee and Ohio Valley, back down to the southeast, has been very dry as of late. And as a consequence, there's been a lot of harvest progress that has happened in this area, and the upcoming forecast is going to suggest that it's going to continue. But let's go ahead and take a quick look here at what was going on in North Carolina with those total rainfall amounts. We saw wind gusts across the state in that 30 to 70 mile an hour range, but the heaviest rainfall fell right here into this part of North Carolina, the far eastern side here, where some places picked up 6 to 8 inches, and one place down here picked up 8.1, I think was the official total max for the state. I'll have to go back and look at those statistics, but you do see very heavy rainfall. Now, a week ago in my forecast video, I was most concerned about what Ian was going to do in the Appalachian Mountains, but that newest track that we saw evolve at the end of last week really showed us that the heaviest rain was going to move to the east, and it just shows us how challenging it is to forecast a hurricane. Now, where this heaviest rainfall hit was a place where in the most recent Drought Monitor released last week, we were now looking at that second stage of drought. But the heavy rain, as it did come through here, really kind of eliminated that. So take a look. This was September 30th, 40 centimeters soil moisture, that's 16 inches. We had many places here across the eastern half of North Carolina that were sitting in that 2 to 5% range. Today's data shows this. So significant increase, although it came with flooding rainfall, but a lot of that is going to soak in. And the important part about this is our longer term water health. In other words, we want to keep the soil moisture up going into winter. We do not want to see any sort of fall or winter drought development. So we're just keeping an eye on these values. Throughout much of the Midwest, extending here from Ohio clear to the Dakotas and back down here into the southern plains, it has been very dry as of late, and we continue to see the drier conditions in the near term forecast. So let's go take a look at where Ian is now and what we expect. So again, remember, we're still bringing that flow around the back side here. So this is starting off today. Let's pull this up to about present. There we go. This is midday today on Monday. As I play through Monday evening, you're just going to see a lot of scattered showers coming around the back side of this. Ian has made a full transition into what we call extratropical characteristics. So it's developing a colder core. It's no longer tropical in nature, but we're just going to see through the day on Tuesday and even into Wednesday morning, more scattered showers coming along, primarily affecting this part of North Carolina, but hitting more of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and parts of Pennsylvania. So that's what we're dealing with here in the near term, is what's left of Ian. High pressure on the backside of this, though. But after Ian exits, this system that came through here and making its way toward the Hudson Bay, it's not going to be bringing a big front and a lot of precipitation through us. In fact, take a look at your 10-day map looking at precipitation anomalies from today's European model forecast. We are substantially drier. All right, substantially drier compared to normal. Now, before we walk through the details of this, I do want to point out that the National Hurricane Center is keeping an eye on 2 areas. They've given this one a 40% chance of developing and the wave behind it a 70% chance. But most forecasts keep the wave that's to the south here staying south, coming possibly into the Caribbean, but getting here over parts of Central America. So at this stage, unlike when we saw Ian in place here, the forecast members are trying to keep it farther to the south. And the second system is, according to the steering winds out over the open Atlantic, more than likely going to be staying far away from the U.S. coast. So it appears that over the next 10 days, the likelihood of us experiencing another tropical system is extremely low. So what's going on in this flow that's delivering such dry air? Well, as I play you through this week, here's Wednesday getting into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All right. The flow pattern is dominated by this. There's a cutoff low north of Hawaii. So the flow is kind of going to go around it and over the top of it. And because of that, we're getting this flow out of the northwest that's diving into a broader trough that's sitting here over parts of New England. And the main story when you have this kind of flow during fall, winter, and even through most of spring is that you get, I'll put a C over it, you get a lot of what we call upper level convergence. So this is essentially where the jet stream comes fast over a ridge and has to slow through a trough. And then an effect of that is to produce a lot of, just buildup in the jet stream level winds here. So the air is forced to sink. And as it sinks downward, you just end up getting a lot of high pressure. And it's the wrong setup to deliver a lot of extra rainfall to us. So thinking about that, let's go out and watch it here. This is from today's European model. We play through Tuesday. We've already seen where the rains were coming in around what's left of Ian. But just notice, high pressure takes over. We even have another large high pressure cell coming in late this week into the Midwest. That one's really going to be bringing some cold air to the Midwest. But there are just no systems forecast through next Monday and even out to next Tuesday at this point. So if we just look at week 1 over here versus week 2, we continue to favor drier conditions. And that's just a product of the upper level flow in the atmosphere. Now from here, let's go talk about that frost threat, because we could see some frosty temperatures in the Appalachian Mountains, but this is the forecast over the next 7 days at the extent, that's what's shown in gray here, of frost. So that cold shot of air coming in this Wednesday, then Thursday, and then Friday toward us is what we're really going to be seeing the pattern shaping up like. So take a look at it. Today, our cold weather is all cloud cover driven. All right. This is Monday's highs. Getting into Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when that finally gets out of here. Now what we're going to see is going in toward the end of the week, Thursday, we start to go back over toward normal temperatures. Same thing for Friday, even a little bit warmer. And here's the cold air advancing that's going to bring that frost through much of the Midwest. And that cold air gets over toward us by Saturday and Sunday. So it's another cool weekend with highs in the low 60s. So we start off cool, we rebound late in the week, and then drop right back off for the weekend because of the extent of that colder air. In fact, when we look out there longer term, this is a 5-day sliding window of temperature anomalies. The ridging that's across the western United States is going to dominate the flow. And as a result, we're going to be seeing through the next, really the first half of October, more days favoring near normal to cooler than normal conditions than we will be seeing warmer than normal conditions. And what I'm going to be watching for very carefully is around mid-month for a bit of a pattern shift to occur. And I want to explain to you what I'm seeing there, talk about South America, and we'll wrap this up. So this is part of it. This is looking here at the latest update on the ocean temperatures. And you continue to see very cold water here representing our La Nina and a lot of cold water surfacing here. Now we call this part of the Pacific Ocean Nina region 3.4. Over here we call it Nina region 1+2. And in both areas the temperatures have been cooling. The reason for that? Strong trade winds. Now as I mentioned in the last few videos, we still can think that this La Nina will start to fade once we get fully into winter. I'm talking about past December into January. What you will watch with me is this. See the blue-green here? This represents strong trade winds. This is the strongest I'd seen it in a while. These red colors represent westerly wind bursts coming out of the Indian Ocean. So there's a lot of rising motion in the atmosphere here. That's what we're calling the MJO. It's in phases 5 and 6. Now, what MJO Phase 5-6 tends to do is it tends to allow the jet stream to really pick up momentum coming into the Pacific Northwest. And if that occurs, we tend to see drier conditions in these areas. So when I show you the longer range forecast in a few moments, when you combine the MJO with La Nina, it just tends to favor, and that's what these warmer colors represent, drier than normal conditions across much of the southern tier of the whole of the United States. The flow just tends to focus more on the Pacific Northwest and the northern tier of the U.S. So what we get here is we look out there from October 11th to November 11th. Can you kind of see the drier conditions here? What is a bit different about this forecast is that once we get past the second week of October, we do expect for the Pacific jet to start to sag a little bit farther to the south, meaning more systems could move through the Midwest, and you know how they can drag fronts through us over here in the Mid-Atlantic. So I do think that the next 2 weeks, I'm fairly confident in what I showed you. But once we get into the end of October and beginning of November, I think the pattern's going to pick up momentum and really get moving. So more frequent systems coming through, and as a result, we're going to see a more volatile temperature pattern. That's our main long-range forecast. Now, on the other side of this, let's talk about the near-term forecast in South America, because we do see that the same La Nina features are favoring colder weather compared to normal over the next 5 days, which is shown here, and day 5 through 10, which is over here on the right. So it's a cooler spring. It's also been quite wet if you look here from parts of Mato Grosso, getting into Mato Grosso do Sul, down to Paraná, over toward Minas Gerais, and back through Goiás, which is here. So this is, I probably just encircled 75% of Brazil's main growing area. That's a huge area, but there it is. Now, where we're dry is along the Paraná River in Argentina. The long-standing drought here is continuing to get worse from Buenos Aires to Santa Fe, even pockets over by Cordoba. So there are major drought issues going in Argentina that are going to continue to get a lot of attention from us. But this wet weather here, combined with the wetness we've seen lately, is what's pushing planting progress to be, well, they're currently at 6.29%. Last year they were at 6.16. The 5-year average is 1.8. So it's early, but that wet weather allows them to get in and get the crop going. And the long-range outlook, let's go here, South America, continues to show risks of droughts in southern Brazil, but primarily into Argentina and Uruguay, while much wetter conditions seem to sit here to the north. And a lot of this, again, is driven by what's going on with La Nina. That's a very characteristic pattern of precipitation in South America when we have a La Nina. So we're going to continue to discuss this and think about where this is taking us in the longer term, but do not expect winter to get set in a specific configuration and stay there. It's going to be a volatile winter as this begins to loosen its reins at some point over the next 60 to maybe 90 days. So we'll keep an eye on it and I'll report back to you, all right? Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk again next Monday. Thanks.